Mack S. Prichard Jr. was born in the waning days of the Great Depression and raised in Memphis, but he calls the entire state of Tennessee, at least the natural parts, his home. Mack began his career with Tennessee's Department of Conservation when he was just 16 years old as a seasonal naturalist at Shelby Forest State Park near Memphis, after park administrators realized he had a talent for conservation, botany, archaeology, and natural history. Not long after, Mack received a National Science Foundation grant to help him with his archaeological research and was nominated for a national award by the Memphis Garden Club. In addition to developing a profound knowledge of natural and cultural history, he had a gift for connecting with the public. By the time he was 18, he had logged more than 200 public appearances before a wide range of groups. Mack went to work for the state of Tennessee, where he would spend his entire career. Following a series of promotions, including one to head the new Archaeology Division in 1971, he became the state's Natural Areas Administrator, where he served before going on to the Conservation Education Section, where he became Tennessee's first state naturalist. Because of Mack's wide-ranging interests, it's no wonder his career covered a lot of ground, both literally and figuratively. Mack never lost his boyhood sense of adventure and exploration. His career took him to every corner of the state, and he relished the opportunity to experience Tennessee's rich natural history firsthand. From the Smokies to his boyhood turf on the Mississippi, above ground and below, Mack took it all in, and with his encyclopedic memory, built a formidable knowledge of all things natural in Tennessee. With that knowledge, Mack became a most eloquent spokesman for all things related to the history of conservation in Tennessee, and is still in demand as a speaker to groups all across the state and elsewhere, as he has been for almost 50 years. When Mack arrived at what was then called the Department of Conservation in Nashville in February of 1964 at the age of 25, then Commissioner Don McSween told him, "Mack, I want you to hit the road and find the last of the best places. We're going to try to get a $5 million bond issue passed to save as many of them as we can." For a young man from the flatlands of Memphis, the South Cumberland region must have been especially eye-opening for young Mack. Its soaring cliffs, deep rocky canyons, and big timber forests were unlike anything Mack had seen elsewhere in the state. Mack was immediately hooked and became a strong and fervent advocate for protecting lands in the Savage Gulf, Fiery Gizzard, and Lost Cove basins. There was a rich human history associated with these lands, well before they were protected. A thriving timbering economy gave rise to settlement, complete with a schoolhouse, a sawmill, and settler cabins in Savage Gulf. In the Fiery Gizzard, prospectors had dug many small dog-hole mines in search of fossil fuels, and in almost every canyon with a good water source, moonshine stills could be found. But in the story of South Cumberland State Park, before there was Mack, there was Herman. Herman Bagenstoss, son of Swiss immigrants, was a successful entrepreneur as well as the region's original environmental advocate. His family started the Dutch-Maid Bakery in Tracy City. Herman was the owner and editor of the Grundy County Herald for 20 years and created the forerunner of what is now the Tennessee Conservationist magazine. It was Herman who helped organize the Alvin C. York Company of the Civilian Conservation Corps, or CCC, back in the 1930s, to give young men jobs, money, and hope during the Great Depression. But it was the natural beauty of the South Cumberland Plateau that energized Herman even more. Long before organizing the local CCC company, Herman was already working to preserve and protect the last of the best places for posterity. Raising money locally, during the Great Depression, Herman amassed the sum of $350 in 1935 to purchase what we now know as Grundy Forest. His role as project superintendent for the CCC company was not accidental. He wanted to marshal a labor force that would, among other things, build the very first hiking trails in Grundy Forest and the Fiery Gizzard Basin. So when Mack came along in the early 1970s, Herman was excited. With the eager assistance of Herman Bagenstos and other local, preservation-minded leaders, Mack went to work. Mack knew Winfield Dunn even before he was elected Tennessee's first Republican governor since Reconstruction. Dunn had married Mack's cousin, Betty Prichard, and so the two had an acquaintance. After Dunn was elected, Mack suggested to the new governor that he stretch his legs for a while and come visit Savage Gulf. Mack wanted the governor to get up close and personal with Savage Gulf, and so he arranged for Dunn to traverse the Gulf, with the first part made on horseback, the second part on foot, and the third part by jeep. The rest, as they say, is history. Dunn was enormously impressed with what he saw, and returned to Nashville as a champion for acquiring land in this area, specifically Savage Gulf, to create what we know today as South Cumberland State Park. But Mack's job didn't end there. He had to convince landowners to get on board and sell their property to the state, lobby for funding to complete the land purchases, and help guide the early development of the park's facilities and trails. Mack convinced local landowners like Bud Werner, whose family had amassed a fortune timbering the canyons of the South Cumberlands, to sell one of the last remaining stands of old-growth timber to the state, to form the nucleus of what would become the Savage Gulf State Natural Area. A tireless advocate for nature, Mack, along with Herman and other environmental leaders, brought countless groups of civic, governmental, and environmentally focused people to the South Cumberlands. He took them on expeditions deep into the forests and canyons to show them the wonders of nature, without the benefit of trails, bridges across creeks, or other park infrastructure we now take for granted. In the largely wild and untamed forests of both Savage Gulf and Fiery Gizzard, Mack preached the gospel of conservation and environmental stewardship to anyone who would listen. Some of the expeditions had more than their share of excitement. Not all who followed Mack's call to action were up to the challenge of rugged hiking into the canyons of the Cumberland Plateau. While he never lost any hikers, he always gained allies who, after surviving one of Mack's expeditions, became believers in Mack, Herman, and what they were trying to accomplish. Mack was never shy about advocating for the things he believed in. Whether it was stopping strip mining in the South Cumberland region, saving the snail darter in the Duck River Basin, or protecting salamander populations in the Smokies, Mack was always out front, leading the charge whenever an environmental wrong had to be righted. Mack always had a camera in his hand. That's why he has, among other photographic treasures, a pictorial chronicle of over 50 years of Tennessee environmental and conservation history, numbering perhaps 100,000 images, which the Friends of South Cumberland are proud to be helping him digitize and publish online for everyone to see, share, and enjoy. Nothing energizes Mack like having an eager audience. The number of public presentations he's delivered, many with the assistance of his trusty Kodak carousel slide projector, probably number well into the thousands. His passion for his subject is evident in his preparation and in the use of timely quotations from some of the most notable philosophers of human history. And his ability to use humor to engage and motivate his listeners is legendary. A career like Mack's doesn't go unrecognized. Both before and after his retirement, organizations from across the state and the nation wanted to thank Mack for his 5 decades of service to Tennessee, and more importantly, to the environment. In May of 2008, Governor Phil Bredesen signed Senate Joint Resolution 1007, commending Mack's half-century as the conservation conscience of Tennessee, and conferring on him the title Tennessee State Park Naturalist Emeritus. More than anything else, the people who know Mack think of him as both an environmental leader and a friend. You can't follow somebody you don't like. The fact that Mack is so engaging and likable has earned him a legion of followers, nay, fans, who will carry his messages of environmental respect and conservational wisdom here in the South Cumberland region and at dozens of other special places across Tennessee.